And I'm back with incoming Speaker Designate of the City Council, Julie Menin. So great to have you back here. I want to talk about a couple more things. Before the end of the year, you were very busy in the Council, passing some key pieces of legislation, including this permanent census office. Now, you, for many who don't know, were in charge of the census and kind of rounding the numbers up a couple years ago. What will this do for the city?
Well, this creates, Dan, a permanent office of the census. And the reason it's important is I was a 2020 census director, and we were really under the time clock and under tremendous pressure in 2020. We were obviously in New York City, the epicenter of COVID, but we had to ensure everyone was counted. And at the time, the Trump administration had added a question, are you a U.S. citizen? A question that hadn't been asked on the census in 70 years. We sued, and I had a senior role in the law department and worked on that case. We successfully sued along with the New York Attorney General and got that question off the census. Now House Republicans are trying to put it back on the census. And so the reason we need a permanent office of the census is to start that planning now. We know that undocumented individuals and immigrant communities across the city will be suspicious of the census. So we need to start that key and critical work now so that we give funding to trusted voices within the community, as we did in 2020. 2020, we finished #1 of all cities across the country because of the work we did. And as a result, we're receiving billions of dollars of funding for our schools, for our infrastructure, for our parks, for so many vital services.
I remember taping a PSA saying, fill out the census. It was so important. But why do you think that question was added? And if it is back, what's to say somebody just looks at it and says, well, I'm not filling this out?
Well, that's exactly the problem. The Trump administration added it in 2016 because they wanted to suppress the count in Democratic blue cities across the country.
Why?
Why? Because of House representation. They wanted New York.
Because it involves how lines are drawn.
We used to, in the 1950s, we had 45 members of Congress in the New York delegation. Now we're down over 20 members. So this is a real problem. And we could lose, it's estimated, up to 3 seats in Congress in the 2030 census. So this really matters. It matters for representation. It matters for the Electoral College. It matters for the balance of power in the House, and it matters for resources. And so this permanent office of the census allows a city to properly plan to ensure that every New Yorker is counted. And this issue is so important. It affects public safety, homeland security funding, infrastructure, DOT. There are over 300 programs that rely on census funding. And so no matter where someone stands politically in New York, the census really matters for them.
That's important. Thank you for laying that out. I think it's a really important perspective just in terms of how things are counted, why they're counted, and how many representatives you get. Also, big bill that passed and many kind of flew under the radar were these EpiPens that are now mandated to be in city schools. And it's very personal to you.
It is personal to me, Dan, because my son almost died of a food allergy when he was 2.5. He went into anaphylactic shock. His throat closed. The only thing that saved his life is his older brother had a peanut allergy, so I happened to have an EpiPen on hand. We put him in an ambulance. He needed a second EpiPen after that. And so the EpiPens really do save lives. And so what my bill does that we passed recently is it mandates EpiPens in every single school in New York City and child care facilities, because oftentimes a parent is dropping their child at a child care facility that doesn't have an EpiPen. This is a matter of life and death. So I'm really proud of the work that we did here, and we did it in honor of a young boy, Elijah, who lost his life when he was 3 from a food allergy.
And now so schools have to have it, and it's funded by the city.
Correct.
Right. That's really important to know. You know, you touched upon this a little bit in the conversation about you being the first Jewish speaker and the first Muslim mayor. But just taking that moment for a second to be the first female Jewish speaker of the city council and what that means for the moment.
Well, for me, it means a lot. My mother was a Holocaust survivor in Hungary. And so, as was my grandmother, my grandfather was killed in the Holocaust just because he happened to be born Jewish. This is something deeply personal to me, but it's also an opportunity. It's historic to have the first Muslim mayor. That is so exciting, and to have the first Jewish speaker, really bringing communities across the city together at this very divided time. So I think it's a historic opportunity and a real honor.
Yeah, and representation. In the council as well. And that is something that I spoke with Adrienne Adams about last week, was about the diversity of the council, the varying opinions, varying backgrounds. And she said she was able to unify and bring everybody together. And she said that she hopes her legacy is that the next speaker continues with that unification process. How do you see yourself being a unifier within the council?
Well, I really do, because I think we have 38 council members who have come out in strong support representing diverse communities all across the city, representing every single borough. In order to be an effective speaker, you need to be a unifier. You need to be a consensus builder, because we have a really big ideological divide. We all represent distinct communities, and so it's making sure that we reach consensus to move issues forward.
Yeah. Okay. Many conversations we're going to have along the way. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Good stuff.